Hi, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing on Conscious Business Zone today with Daniel Gutierrez, one of my dear friends. Hi, Daniel.
Hello, Kathy.
Yeah, so I am so excited for you to meet him and to hear about his work. He has just published a book called Radical Mindfulness that he'll tell you about. But I want to tell you first how I met Daniel. In 2010, there was a terrible fire in the mountains in the foothills here in Boulder, Colorado. They called it the 4 mile fire. 4 mile fire. And a friend and I put together an event with the University of Colorado to bring in incredible healers, sound healers, musicians, and other people. Face was there, Kimba Aram was there. I could go down a list of amazing characters. And Daniel flew in from LA to be the MC for it. And that's how I met Daniel. He's got a heart the size of Texas, which is where he's from. And so I just want you to know he's been doing, that was 9 years ago, and he hasn't stopped doing incredible things for people and the world and to bring more consciousness into the world. So Daniel, tell us the happy Valentine's Day first.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about what your new book, Radical Mindfulness, is about.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I guess in order to tell the story, I've got to go back about 6 years. And so I just want to paint a picture for you.
Yeah.
If you could imagine, I'm in New York City in the winter, probably November, December timeframe. It's a cold day in New York City. I'm in a swanky membership only restaurant on the 35th floor, I think, on 5th Avenue. And I'm sitting in a big leather chair and I'm drinking a $250 shot of cognac and I've got my custom made suit on, and I'm sitting to the left of me is Al Sharpton and to the right of me is a New York football player. And I am thinking I am it. I am so full of myself. It's not even funny. And I'm looking out the window, and this is when it gets sexy. I'm looking out the window, and these big bellowing snowflakes are falling, and it just doesn't get any better. So it's just like a scene out of It's a Wonderful Life, because what happened next changed my life. I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the reflection of myself in the glass, and I realize that there's a tear running down my face. And I thought to myself, what's that about? And then I hear a voice that says, "What happened to you?"
Oh.
And I was like, what values did you sell to be who you are today? And I thought, oh my gosh. And I thought, why would I be getting a question like that right now? Like, why am I being challenged? And to kind of give you some context, I got to go back to when I was 17 years old. At the age of 17, I was already a licensed Baptist minister. Right. And so even though that type of religion didn't work for me, I always had that sense of connection to source. I had that connection to the universe. And so that boy got lost in the translation of success. And when you're successful, and to give you some context about where I was, at the time I was an advisor to the Department of White House Personnel for President Obama. I was president in New York City of a very prestigious organization called Primer. Right. And I was at the height of my career. I really didn't have any reason to be challenged. And I thought that everything I had done was to be successful. And so that bothered me. And Kathy, what I ended up doing that very day, I got back to Los Angeles, and I was at the end of my tenure of president for Primer. So I let that go. I quit interacting with the White House in the respect to what I was doing for them. And I quit speaking. I completely got off the market. And for the next 6 years, I studied with the Sanskrit priest in the coffee plantations of the Himalayas. I studied with the Buddhist monks in the Himalayas. I studied with the Amazonian maestros and also the Kiro shamans of the Andes. And that was my life for almost 6 years. So in order to give you the context of radical mindfulness, I got to tell you, I don't know if some of you have seen Forrest Gump. But, Forrest is running. Then, he's all got this long hair. And at some point, he stops and he says, That's all I have to say about that. And he quit running. Well, I was like that. After 6 years, I stopped and I asked myself, why? Why did you do that? Why did you leave your career? Why did you leave your leader? Because everybody thought I had lost my mind. Why did you do that? And I actually began to feel like I had made a mistake. I mean, because, you know, you don't work for 6 years, you run out of money. And that's right there, baby. You start running out of money, you start thinking about why. And the most miraculous thing happened to me because I got a call from my sister and she says, you need to come home. And I realized at that moment that mother had health had turned for the worst, and she'd been sick for a couple of years. So I went to see her, and she was not doing well. And my brothers and sisters had been taking care of my mother in the hospital. So I said, would you please let me take care of mom? And so that night in the hospital, as I sat there and stared at her, worried to go to sleep because I was afraid she'd die, something miraculously happened. And that's where radical mindfulness came in. And mindfulness is just the act of being aware. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's just awareness. You can be aware walking, you can be aware eating. It's awareness. So I'm looking at mother, and I don't even know how all this happened, but I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden, within my own body, I could feel the failure of her liver. I could feel her struggle of her breathing in my own body. I could feel her struggle to live. And I was like, what's happening to me? Why am I feeling this? And then something amazing happened. All of a sudden I looked over at her, and she wasn't mom anymore. She was just a light, like a spirit. And then I like looked at my hands, and all of a sudden I was just light. And I realized that we no longer were in the construct of mother and son. We were just two spirits. And she looked over at me and she said, many lifetimes ago, you made me a promise. And that promise was that you would be here when I needed you most. And you have done that. I release you from your contract. You're free to go.
Oh, wow.
The most amazing experience of my life. And when I looked down and I was back in my body, I went, what happened? And I realized in that moment that all of the things that I had learned from the shamans and the priests and the monks had prepared me to be so present that I was able to have that exchange with that spirit called my mom. And that changed my life. And that's where the word radical came from, because mindfulness by itself is awareness. But radical mindfulness is the practice of that awareness. It's that practice of mindfulness. It's being able to stay in that space more all day than not. And I explain it this way. In Los Angeles, we have some crazy freeways. If you do meditation and you do yoga or whatever it is that you do in the morning, and you get out on the freeway and the first thing you do, you start flipping your finger. You don't have to practice, right? You don't. And so the goal is to find yourself present in the moment, recognizing that person did not get up and say, out of all these thousands and thousands of cars, I'm gonna go find Daniel Gutierrez and cut him off. That was not their intention. It was just something that they did. So that's where the word radical comes from. And my whole story in my book is based around my mother and all of the lessons that I learned in those last 4 days that I spent with her. And I left her. The reason why Valentine's Day, this book has come out, is because I had to leave her on Valentine's Day, and I never saw her alive again. She died 4 days later, and I had to bring my son back to school. And so I promised her that I would release this book on Valentine's Day, and I did. So 2 years later, you know, the book is out, and it's doing very well.
Yes. Oh, it's wonderful. I bought mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I helped you with another book that you did. There was an ebook that you published when you were 50.
Yes, 50.
So I've been on this road with you for a while. And also I worked with you on that project with Dominique Ruiz, which was really cool. So
and now you're going to work with me on the one we're going to come back to Boulder.
Oh yeah. So I'm afraid Be Live is not showing the comments on the thing, but Zach Bergen is here and Joy Fleckinger. You met Joy in LA when I introduced you to Kellen and Joy. So they're here, and some others. And so Daniel, the reason I thought this was so appropriate for Conscious Business Zone is radical mindfulness, or mindfulness in general, is a conscious choice. And do you have, I know that you do coaching, and I know that you do a lot of public speaking. And in
Right.
fact, you were just on the cover of another magazine. What was that magazine?
Radiance magazine. Yeah, I don't have it close to me.
You're
Yeah,
the
I should.
dude. Anyway, so, so your message to get out there, is it to help people to really think about and go into their heart and operate from there? Is that the
Yeah, well, and I think for a business owner, it's even more imperative. And I wrote in the book, there's 5 practices and 6 steps. So there's 5 practices that I found I had to find myself in, and 6 practices. I mean, 6 steps to becoming radically mindful. When we're entrepreneurs and business owners, we can't afford for our mind to drift into fear, doubt, and disbelief because of something that we fear in the future or the past, because in doing so, we recreate what we already don't want.
right?
And so as a business owner, someone could get so freaked out at the beginning of the month, so scared they won't be able to pay their employees, or so scared they're not going to pay their lease, that they totally disengage from the action of life. And so that's where radical mindfulness comes in, is that we got to get out of our head and into our heart, because it's our heart that connects us to our conscious business in the first place. We don't call ourselves conscious entrepreneurs because we're like everybody else. We're conscious because we believe not only in the power of the heart, but what the heart brings is saving the planet. What the heart brings is doing things that are good for business and good for everyone. It's a win-win. It's for the highest good of everybody. But that highest good is not good if it's not for you first. And
Right.
that's what I'm teaching. Go inward like I did. Now, you don't have to go to the Himalayas. You don't have to go to the Amazon. I did that for you. Read the book. But you know, we do need to find ways to find peace and tranquility in our lives if we expect that at the end of our road, whatever that may be, that we don't look back and realize that the success that we did have was managed by fear, doubt, and disbelief. Those are human stimulants. That the success that we had was success because I feared failure. That's not the way to end at the end of the road. You want to end the end of the road knowing that you loved as much as you could, you gave as much as you could, you had compassion and forgiveness, and you absolutely were conscious of your heart all the time. And I think that's what conscious entrepreneur and conscious business is about.
So Daniel, do you feel, I know that you did the passion test at one point. Do you feel that, well, that's where you met Jennifer Huff, and
Yes.
and the crew, and Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you feel that was part of your journey too, where you got to see about the fuel that passion can give you? Because it's mindfulness, but there's this fuel of energy and joy when you're aligned with
Yes.
your divine purpose and your soul. Do you feel that was part of your journey
I
too?
think that all of the training that I had and all of the people I ran into were part of the story. Because, you know, when I woke up, so to speak, after 6 years of traveling and teaching, I realized that everybody played a part. I said that in my Facebook post today, that I didn't become an international bestseller because Daniel was cool. I became an international bestseller because I have great friends, and I spent time building human capital. And that's why people support each other. You have, you know, Deborah Poneman was teaching the other day about human capital and how important it is that we don't forget our friends, and that we don't forget that someday you may ask them for something. And if the last thing they remember is you treating them like crap, then they're not going to support you. Right. So today, as I look across the board, I mean, right now we're trending in 10 countries. I mean, that didn't happen. I'm not in Australia. I'm not in France. I'm not in these countries, but there's people there that obviously have crossed my path and are out there supporting me in a big way. And so I don't consider this my success as much as it's our success. And clearly, the one thing I do want to say, I remember, and I've talked about this in the book, there was a time when my mother called me and she was like, "Mijo, when are you coming home?" And I remember distinctly telling her, "Mom, I'm not coming home." I said, "You have to learn to share me with the world. I have work to do, and I'm going to keep doing that." And when she was dying, I was Like, what did you do? Why did you say that? Why did you tell your mom that? You broke her heart. She wanted you to be, I'm her firstborn and her oldest. And you know what? Today, she can see what I created.
Yeah.
Today, she can see the thousands of people that are supporting the book, the thousands of people that are reading her story. That's why I did what I did. And I'm so happy that I have so many friends around the world that are supporting this project. And really, for me, it's a new start. It's like this book shares with you who I am today, not who I was, the guy with the hair.
The guy, I have that testimonial on my
Go to her webpage. You'll see me with hair.
It's like, maybe I need a new one. But okay, so I want to ask also, because you do so many wonderful things. I mean, if anyone can't tell, I'm a cheerleader here. But I love what you do, and I've always tried to support you any way I can.
Right. Thank you.
You've been the president of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce in LA. Are you still the president?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I sit on the board of directors also for the.
Okay. And tell us what that's like. Is that?
Well, the interesting thing about the Holistic Chamber here in Long Beach was it didn't exist 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
When Mother passed away, I realized that I was lonely, because she was kind of the person I went to when I needed something. I would just call, hey, Mom. She never really gave me any advice because she didn't really know what to say, but she loved me nonetheless. It was just like, okay, son, she said, you're going to be all right. Okay, that was all I wanted to hear. But after she passed away, I realized that all my business, and some of you probably that are watching right now may understand this, all my business was online. Yep. So I had thousands and thousands of friends, but I had nobody to have lunch with. I had nobody to have dinner with. I had no one to celebrate birthdays or whatever. And so I started looking around and looking for a place to plug into, and found this Holistic Chamber organization. And I'm not a very good follower. So I decided I would start a chapter here in Long Beach. And now it's one of the fastest growing chapters for the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And I love this group because they love me until I could love myself again, and go through the grief that I needed to go through. So they're a great group. Yeah.
Well, and I think Marbeth is doing that too. So I don't know. I don't think there is a Holistic Chamber of Commerce here in Denver, Boulder area, but that sounds like a great opportunity for people to get involved and meet like-minded people.
Well, you meet like-minded people and you build I should have wrote a book called The Internet Almost Killed Me, because, because we can isolate, right? We can isolate behind a computer, right now. We're like, hey, this is great. But if you turn it off and you're lonely, you're missing the boat. Just being able to see you in Los Angeles the last time you were here was so awesome, because I missed that human connection, right, with people. So now I'm getting out. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm getting out. And
I remember one time helping you do a project, and you had sent out something about a free half-an-hour session of coaching with you.
Yeah.
And you were so swamped you couldn't do anything else but the free sessions for like a month.
No, it took me 3 months. Yeah, I had like 400 requests.
Oh my God.
And I talked to every single one of them.
How wonderful.
Yeah, every single one of them. It took me like 4 months. It was horrible. I was like, remember I told you I'm never doing that again.
So any coaches out there that are watching this, please learn from Daniel's lesson, and especially that long of a time, or without a pre-assessment or something.
Right. So there's got to be something in there that kind of lets you know. But at the end of the day, it gave me a chance to know my database, and it gave me a chance to show people that I didn't think that I was too above them, that I wouldn't stop and spend time.
Right. Oh no. Well, you're all heart. I mean, there's nothing. You wear yourself on your sleeve. There's nothing ingenuous about that, and you really are in service to all. So that's part of my reason why I connect so strongly with you, because that we have the same values.
Right.
So tell us about your recent event at Carnegie Hall.
Wow. That's another moment. Wow. And it's hard to explain. So remember, I told you that I was in that swanky restaurant, and I walked away, and people were calling me and going, "You have lost your mind. You can't do this. You can't be doing," because I had changed something spiritual on my website, and somebody called me very high up in New York, says, "What are you? You think you're Jesus now? You think you're Jesus? Yeah. What are you doing?" I mean, all I did was change a quote. You just, what? You're Jesus now. You just think you're all. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He says, "You have ruined your career. You're a national leader, and now what? You're just going to walk away." I was like, whatever. I walked away anyway. So fast forward to last December, and I got the honor of being asked to open a meditation concert for Michel Pascal, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and a couple other very prominent musicians. And I was the opening person at Carnegie Hall. And I remember walking into Carnegie Hall and just started crying, because it was so powerful to be in that energy. And I realized, and I remember saying this on stage, I said, not too long ago, a few blocks down the road, I was at one of your fancy restaurants and full of myself, and decided that I would walk away, and people were telling me I had lost my mind. And as I'm telling my story, I said, I guess I didn't do too bad, because now I'm on one of the biggest stages in the world with some of the biggest musicians in the world. And that was just a moment. I called it redemption, because I realized in that moment that I could be myself, that I could pursue the passion of spirituality and mindfulness and peace and tranquility, and not lose anything. And I really didn't lose anything, Kathy. There's some people that, don't resonate with that, and that's okay. We're not here to please everybody. My goal is to reach whatever hearts are open and willing to listen. And it's not my job to open people. It's my job to lead, to guide them. And that's what I enjoy about the work that I do today. So so did I lose much? I mean, I would consider working for the White House just as powerful standing on Carnegie Hall.
Yeah. In a totally different way. It's not powerful. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard work. This is what, when you think about wanting to make the world a better place, leave a legacy, the legacy you're leaving by doing all this heart work and mindfulness work is really what's going to get us into the next chapter. Daniel, I've got several comments that I'd like to read to you. Sure. That you could maybe talk. Okay, so Zach Bergen, he's always giving great stuff. He says, yes, of course, business should be conducted consciously, i.e. heart-based. What I see is stronger tidal forces involved with CEOs and others who are more resistant to this idea because of ego, or for the extreme case, have psychopathic tendencies. They are free to live that experience, of course. What I wonder is how those who need this direction the most and are some, oops, where'd it go? It just, oh no, I'm sorry. Anyway, I think his question was, it just blipped out. I apologize on my Facebook thing. But he's asking, how do we get this teachings and this consciousness to the people that need it the most?
Well, it's interesting because I was invited when I first was coming back online to speak to 1,500 executives. And I made them do a meditation. I mean, I really thought they were going to boo me off stage. But I had told the CEO who hired me, to ask me to speak, that I was going to speak about what I wanted to speak about, and if he didn't like that, I wouldn't speak at all. So he said, fine, do what you want to do. And so I'm teaching mindfulness and meditation and laughing meditation, and when we got done, I opened it up for questions. So you have 1,500 executives and someone said, why is it, a millennial said this, why is it that executives are so scared to allow us to be who we are? And I said, well, I'm going to speak to those executives now. And this is what I said to them. I said, the reason why you're scared is because you're scared of your own reflection.
That's right.
I said, you're scared of what we might find out about you. Just like I thought that day when I realized that, I hadn't been exactly dancing by my values. I was dancing by the values of success. And that meant step on people, walk on people, do what I got to do. So people are scared that somehow it's a weakness, but it's not, it's a strength. And so I said to them, so executives, those of you that are fearful of allowing people to meditate in their cubicles or to do yoga at lunch. Let me say this. I'm out there sharing that there's a 20% increase in the bottom line of any company that is allowing their employees to have a moment or moments at work so that they can become undistracted and be more productive at their desk. So if that 20% increase on your bottom line, which usually never happens, it's usually 3%, that 20% is a huge number. If you're in the way of that 20% increase between the stockholders and board and you will be fired. You're antiquated. And so I think to reach those individuals, we have to use the power of our own bios. In other words, my credibility allows me a conversation with someone that may not allow someone else to say, hey, what about thinking different? Also, as you know, I take these executives on tours to Peru, because then they can open up and realize, hey, you're an ass, or maybe they're not, right? I had someone tell me that. They go, I didn't know I was such an ass. I really got to see that. Yes, you are. Anyway, so
it's a giant men's group, only it's men and women.
Right. Well, I think that Don Miguel Ruiz and I were having a conversation one day, and I asked him, how do we reach the men? And he said something that I think is the answer to the question that Zach was asking. We have to go to them. They won't come to us. We have to go to them. And that means using, for those of us out there that have the capacity to get in front of them, because I remember sitting with the president of HSBC North America, big position. And he did not ask me about his bottom line. He did not ask me about how to be more profitable. He had people to do that. What he asked was, how can I be a better CEO?
That's right.
And that's what they want. They want to be better, but they're also fighting with the ego. They're also fighting with, how do I keep my job?
Right.
Well, the unfortunate thing about most of those people is they're dying of heart attacks. They're dying of bad health. They're dying of stress. And I don't know where the trade-off there is. I mean, that's you work all your life to build an income just to try to buy back your health. It's just not worth it.
Right. Well, and again, it's not the new energy. The new energy is more team oriented. Right. So any leader that doesn't create group and create team is really missing the boat. They're really missing all the juice, really, all the possible creativity. So I do have other people that are talking on here. Zach said, unfortunately, yes, that is the case. People take me more seriously because I'm published and have the degrees. Too bad, since truth should stand on its own. And
That's
yet,
right.
bottom line as a driver, only if execs actually believe it. We know that the burnout work week is obsolete, yet we still see it. Here's to hoping. And then Elsie Ritzenheim also put she's going to buy the book, and she's loving. She's done a lot with mindfulness, and she's a creativity expert. So
thank you for doing that. Thank you for buying it and share it.
Yeah. Well, so the lessons that we want to learn is this spiral of keep growing, keep learning, keep embracing that you're
keep evolving,
seeing that light in everyone. One other question, and then we'll go, but I want to throw you one about divine feminine and divine masculine. There's a lot of people talking about the balance of that now. And I mean, the way that you love your mother, you are an amazing man, that you express that. Not that many men openly express that they love their mother, or at least I don't know very many. How do you think this whole new, I'm not calling it the ascension, but the development and the upliftment of humanity, the balance of divine masculine and feminine, do you have any thoughts on that?
I've had many conversations about this as I've been asked to be a keynote speaker at some men's conferences. One of the things that's happened in our society is we need balance, but we're not balanced. Men have lost their way in understanding their role and also understanding how they can support women without feeling like, the old construct of I work, I bring the bread in, I do this. So that's shifting as more women become in places of leadership and power, which is the way of the future. Not because it's because they have more compassion and more forgiveness and more understanding. they're less likely to go to war rather than try to work it out. We go to war, kill everybody, and go, oh, we should have probably talked that out. And we did, right? It's too late. So I think that in order for men to get in touch with that feminine side of themselves, it has to be demonstrated by men who are willing to do that, and say, look, I consider myself a type A manly man kind of guy. And yet I'm still able to connect to my mother, and I'm still able to say I loved her, and I'm still able to write about her. And I'm still able to support women in their strength and in their power. There's nothing that says that I can't be powerful too. It's just that we're entering into a time of a serious cohabitation and equal. There's no one leading or no one following. We're walking side by side. And that's the disconnect for men, because they're so used to leading. Even if they let us off a freaking cliff, they were still used to leading. And we need to start thinking about, what other things can we do as human beings to support the earth and support the protection of our earth and protection of our evolution to keep moving forward. And so I think that men that are, and I want to encourage men that are connected to their hearts not to be afraid to show that, because it won't be until we find our way to self-forgiveness and self-compassion. And you know what, man, we don't know the answers right now. The world is changing a lot. I mean, look at how many congresswomen made it into the White House recently. It was amazing. So don't fight it. Just find your way, whatever that may mean. And that's why I'm involved in speaking at men's. I just spoke at one in the UK, and my message is the same. Get over it. Let's evolve. What does that look like? What does it look like to be the evolved male? What does it look like to be in partnership with the evolved female? And you're right. There has to be a balance there. One cannot be more dominant than the other. We already did that. Men were dominant for a long time. And it almost and can still cause the destruction of our planet.
Right.
If we're careful. Right. So
the other thing is, I think the women, I mean, I've been at my own, this business is 19 years. I had another business for 16 years. And then I ran a division of Arthur Anderson. And, we had to take on male roles. I mean, in order to be a hotshot executive, I had to take on all the roles that a man would. So you have to learn how to be feminine again and be vulnerable. And so I think there's a dance that's quite amazing to watch. And I'm excited to see how it all pans out, because this is the opportunity for everyone to share their gifts to the max. This is no more hiding, no more putting on the costume to go to work. This is it. Be who you are.
Be authentic.
Authentic, right?
Right. Be authentic. Yeah. I always say, let's see here. The LGBT group have come out, gay and lesbians. All the groups have come out except the spiritual people. They're still in the closet. So when are we coming out? I mean, come on, shine your light.
We're out.
Yeah, shine your light. Shine your light.
We're out now. I think there's enough of us that it's safe. I mean, I think there's been too many lifetimes where you've been burned at the stake that people too. One more thing Zach said. Zach says, one last note, nice work, and I'm happy that you made the transition. The network of conscious souls are holding a grid that will raise everyone.
Yes. I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And we're not alone out here. We're together. And today, my book has proven that. 10 different countries doing their thing. We're awake. We're awakened. And we want to support leaders that want to step up and be that.
But that's right. That's right. And I look forward to see all the different courses that come out of this and all the wonderful opportunities people have to learn more about how to be mindful and radically mindful. So, Daniel, thank you so much for the work you do in the world.
Thank you for your love. I appreciate it.
And so glad you're my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Hope you'll share this with your friends and get the conversation going amongst yourself about being radically mindful. And you probably want to get the book so that you can talk about it a little bit.
It's only 99 cents right now for 72 hours. Don't get it.
Yeah. I'll put the link here too. Thanks, Daniel.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.